if you get locked out the port for the chassis bill, there's ways around it where you could get back in. You could get back in before you pay that chassis bill, but I'm not going to go into that. What you want to do is you want to make sure you're keeping up on your chassis bill. That way you don't get locked up. And that chassis bill, man, you gotta pass that chassis bill off to the customer. You don't want to be paying that chassis bill. Now, if you own your own chassis, you still bill the customer for the chassis, but you're not paying it to the chassis pool because it's not their chassis. That, whatever you bill the customer for the chassis, that'll be yours. So it's basically like the chassis paying for itself. So how much of a day you charge a customer, that'll be your money that you pay for your chassis. You could buy a chassis straight up cash, you could lease one, you could rent one, or you could finance it. Those are different ways you could get a chassis. So chassis have its pros and cons. If you have a chassis, you're going to have to maintain it. If you're running the chassis out the pool, they maintain it. Every time you go out with a chassis, you come back with a chassis. Whatever load you put that chassis under, when you go back in, that chassis cancel out from that load. So the next load you're coming out with the same chassis, or if you switch chassis, that chassis get put on to the new load that you're coming out with it on. So, and when you go in the port with a pool chassis, try to make sure I'm not in nobody's way. Try to finish this video before I get up out of here. When you go in the port with your own chassis, you don't gotta go in the chassis inspection line, because it's your own chassis, they don't inspect it. When you go in the port with a pool chassis, you gotta go through the inspection line. You gotta inspect the chassis, they check the brakes, the lights, they check the inspection, stuff like that. Make sure the chassis good, make sure it's road ready before they let you back out with it. If there's anything wrong with it, they'll tag it and you gotta go drop it, or you gotta go get it fixed. Right there on the port, they have a yard that fix the chassis. If they tag it, depends what they tag it for. If they tag it for a light or something simple, you could go over to the repair place. They'll just switch a light out if they're not busy. If they don't have a long line and you want to do that, just go over there and have them switch the chassis out. Switch the light out. But if it's something like a tire or something like that, and you don't want to wait for them to do all that, as long as there's other chassis available, just go over there, drop that one with a tag on it, take up a good one, and run it back to the inspection line, and you're good to go with it. So those are the pros and cons of having your own chassis versus pulling the pool chassis. It's up to you if you want to get your own chassis. It's not necessarily something bad to not have a chassis versus have a chassis. And the broker don't care where you get the chassis from. Neither does the customer. As long as you have a chassis to run the load, that's all they care about. Having your own chassis, when it's a shortage of chassis, like sometime now, you have a shortage of 40s. So if you have your own chassis, you don't have to worry about that, because you always have your chassis. Unless it's one of them situations like I explained before, where your chassis get tied up under another container. But if that's not the case, you always have your chassis. You don't have to wait whenever it's a shortage. But that's it, man, for if you should get your own chassis or not. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you get it, and I'm not going to tell you don't get it. Depends on your customer